There he is. Charlie. All right, Charlie's here. We can start. Let's get Samantha rounded up. Hey, John, come on. Hey, the Brewers are still in first place.
They're hanging in there, huh?
They're number 7 in the power ratings.
The Braves won 12, or the Twins.
What's with Buxton? Where is he?
He's back. He's playing. He had 2 home runs the other night. He's back. He was injured for 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
What else? So it's on. Wow, I never heard about. It's important to work out, to stretch before we talk. Actually, there was a famous Far Side cartoon, and it showed Vikings going like this, and they were about to sack a city, and the Vikings knew the importance of stretching before an attack. Okay. Okay, you ready, Will? Says we're ready, so let's make sure I'm still amplified. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming this afternoon. It's a lovely May 23rd, 2024, and we're celebrating the fact that there is not an active tornadic storm in the area. That was enough excitement for one time. Don't really have a lot to say other than that. Merle and I are thrilled to be here sharing stories today that are focused on the Hough House, the legendary Hough House, replaced by the Winona Hotel, and finding out just what was going on back in those crazy days of 1889. I also want to mention that Merle and I will be reading at Peter's Beer Garden on Thursday, June 6th at 5 p.m. So come by. We're starting to accumulate more dates as time goes on. And with no further ado, here he is, Merle Hanson.
Hi, is it on? Okay. Tonight I'm going to read 2 stories, and we'll act out 2 stories. We're going to learn about Lena Weinberg tonight, and we're also going to learn about Charlie Bone. I'm going to open up with this, because this story was in my Facebook many years ago, and it was about my miss, and where I came from, and the people I came from, and what Winona means to me. I called it Mr. Ives. I spent hours now just watching that Mississippi River slowly working its way to New Orleans. It passes many old towns, but there is only one Winona. For a long time it delivered the weary and the hungry to a town filled with hopes, dreams, and charlatans. I've seen a lot of folks come and go through the years. I have shared a drink with most everyone. And if you met me in the bar, I might have known your grandpa or great-grandpa. You can never really leave this little river town, even after the final act and the curtain has been pulled. I was a townie who never learned to come making the same mistakes again and again. I was in reform school by the ripe old age of 10. People tried talking to me and beating me, but I had a mind of my own and was hard to change. It never did me much good. It seemed as if I was always stealing cars, fighting, and drinking and driving. I knew all the tops and the judges, so I'm not certain they ever enjoyed my company. I don't blame them anymore. My grandpa served at Gettysburg. I learned a lot from him, and not all of it good. In the end, we helped each other home, and the old drunks would buy me a drink for getting the old boy tucked in. He wore the old uniform when days were special right until the end. He did give me quiet moments in this loud and crazy world I lived in. And tonight, I'm looking for Grandpa. I always remember him wearing the old uniform. It had a few holes and was missing more than a few buttons. It smelled like Gettysburg, he said, And it was his way of never forgetting the men who died and those who walked with its shadow. He always told me to sit and sleep under the stars by memories of his mom and pa. I could almost feel him laughing, and he would remember the world that ended the life he knew. He would raise his eyes as if raising his glass to what might have been, and then he told me the same stories, as if the life he remembered and knew ended the day before America's birthday in 1863. It was one of the places we talked about under that shade tree on the levee before he died. Here I sit under the same tree 41 years later, with no hope of tomorrow not looking any better. I can feel his heart beating, the smell of the Uber jacket making it seem like yesterday. Those were the best times of my life. I stare out into the dark Mississippi and I see the Milky Way and all the stars over my head. I say my prayers, take a few prayers, and I feel warmth creeping up in me, though I haven't felt since he left me. I start to see the old Vermont farm and Grandpa, and the rush of memories going through the narrow window of my mind. And I realize I'm coming home at last. This old town passed away one night in 1951 on the old shade tree on the levee. He hopes you remember his grandpa with the tip of the cap the next time you come downtown. And what was strange about that story is we were working on the levee project down there at the time with Frank Pomeroy and Mark Peterson and everybody else. I sent this story to Mark. I said, well, you're working on the levee, I'm working on stories on the levee, right? And Mark was concerned enough, and Mark was worried enough, he sent it to the police station. And the police station, following up with it, they tried to find me. Of course, I had just moved from Carolina, so they were kind of confused. And it took them a couple hours, and they come up to the front porch, and they were just making sure I was okay, which I really, really appreciate. And they were just checking me out. And then I said, mighty good story, huh? And I just started laughing. But it was one of the first stories I ever wrote that I realized that I can do this okay. I can write a story which makes people go from here to this other place. And, you know, our heads get so worried about modern day living, we don't ever. So this is my stuff is a good escape. But this next story is about a guy by the name of Charlie Bone. What's unique about this story is I didn't write it. I wrote it in my head, so because it's a different process to tell stories, but he was doing it. But Charlie came to Winona in 1868. He was 16 years old and came from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. He was a nice little fellow, not too bright, but a decent enough kind of man. He came to Winona because Winona was alone about the community. Winona, there was jobs in the wind industry. Bay State Mill, which was called Potter's Mill. And all this happening there, so he was a young man. Word gets around, he came to Winona. Now, he didn't have much money, so he found like a good frugal Wisconsin, I don't know saying. He found the cheapest place he could find. Well, the place was called the Mississippi House. It's at two locations in town. One is behind where the current theater is, and used to be on the other side of the tracks. And the other one is down by the water treatment plant, Front in Johnson. Both were involved. The railroad kicked them off, the railroads, and it collapsed before 1880. It wasn't made of us. But Charlie came here full of hope and aspirations. He moved in, he started working. He was doing bags for Mr. Latchell on the railroad. So he's down there working, and he goes home and goes to sleep. And he starts heading down to the bar, and he's starting to drink vodka, whiskey, and vodka, because it wasn't the expensive stuff like there was at the Huff Hotel. This was special moonshine. This was special stuff. So he started drinking, and he started kind of enjoying it, and we got to meet the owner's daughter. And Charlie Brown fell well. He felt his heart dancing around and carried around, and she'd flutter those eyelids. And then she'd kind of smoke and smile and demur. Charlie was in love. Every step he took, he was... They got married. They married each other. Well, Charlie started working down in the bar. She started working in the bar. And those boys can drink. Charlie broke his one drink. He was already 2, 3. We would start to see it coming. And by 4, he was screaming and hollering and jumping and threatening people. I mean, these were boys when people you know threatened. The Mississippi Pirates had a regular police operator. Killing, stealing, thieving, you name it. And you could all think Roxy Corner. She turned me on to the Huff House. But it was something else. It was just one step above the Hillbilly Jungle, which was west of there. So it was a tough place. So we started drinking in there. And one night, we usually had a pretty good crowd. One night, a guy by the name of Ryan Holt called me. About 77 years old, the nicest man. All the guys around the bar said he was just a great, great person. Charlie had that full thing. Jumped over the top of the bar, landed on his side, put him in a headlock, and ate his ear. And the worst thing was, now most people would eat it and they'd spit it out, or they'd swallow it real quick so that nobody would see it. But Charlie stood on top of the bar with the bread between his teeth and just waved it. Charlie had some issues. And the next day, the local newspaper when it came out, it said something about cannibalism at the Mississippi House. I kid you not! But this is a town company. And shortly after that ear treatment, Anna, his wife, kind of tried to start to step away. Because he'd come home from work and he'd be mad, he'd want his dinner, he'd be screaming this left and right. Well, she didn't have to take that. Her dad was still around her. And so she went back in with her parents. And now, of course, I didn't do Charlie any good for his mental health. And the poor girl was a poor girl. So Philharmonic Hall used to be down where the Eagles Club was. Some of you might remember that. It became Redlands. And it was this huge hall down covered. Way back when. Came down, I think, 62 or something like that. In a big fire. But when Frederick Douglass came to Winona in 1872, you know how many people showed up to hear him speak? 4,000. That's an incredible amount of people for 1872. We come from people who like to hear and see things differently. We should be proud of that. Today, Frederick Douglass showed up. He was at 15. I mean, times change. Times really change. So anyway, he followed his sister-in-law and his brother to the Philharmonic Hall. It was a big shindig. There were hundreds of people there. He didn't sit quite there. He'd be a step or two away, but he stopped her. He followed her. He tracked her. He listened. stayed. They pull up and they're walking down 3rd Street on the way home to a place on at the staff hamburger, which is down Milligan's Pub. It was owned by Johnny Burmeister, the grandfather, as was the Burmeister Hotel on the corner. Charlie pulled on a Smith & Wesson and shot. It grazed her head. So Charlie, I don't know what Charlie's going to do, but grazed her head. And she's going down to the ground. She said, Charlie, kill me. Charlie, kill me. Charlie immediately, with east on 3rd, towards the lake and Franklin, turned in the alley right behind the present-day Eagles, which was the Philharmonic Hall, and we heard a second gunshot. Charlie, he was gone, and he left a note. He left a note and it said, John, here's $1.62. That's all I got. Call my parents. So the parents called the police officer, the attorney handling the thing, and he said, we can't make it. Bury Charlie, please. Charlie is buried out in the Poplar Cemetery, somewhere out there, probably under years and years of where Charlie is. I'm sure he's buried out there. All yours, buddy.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, well, making sure you can all hear me with this thing on. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay, then we're good to go. This is a story that is called the Swiss Family Brugger, or Brugger. How do you pronounce that? Brugger. Okay, thank you. I mean, I didn't in Wisconsin. And I started out trying to write something completely different, but it comes out like this. The 1850 United States Census shows that John and Crescentia Brugger were living in Washington County, Wisconsin. And that's a part of Wisconsin I've known all my life, southeast Wisconsin. It's been called Little Switzerland. But they were listed as German. They were listed as German in the census because there was no Germany. And they all spoke German. That was close enough. They were actually Swiss. They didn't care where they were from. They had no idea of nationality. They were happy to be in the land of freedom and opportunity, the United States of America. And Winona's Polish immigrants knew how that felt. By 1880, there were 3 generations of Bruggers living across the river in Buffalo County, so they've made it to Buffalo County. This third generation included 3 brothers named Jacob Brugger, Louis Brugger, and John Brugger. The oldest was Jacob. He came to Winona and started up a saloon out by Sugarloaf. By 1890, Louis and John Brugger had also moved to Winona. And by 1894, Louis and John Brugger also entered the saloon business at 451 East Broadway Street. What Winona landmark is located at 451 East Broadway Street? You're both right. It is Blato's Bakery, but yes, it is the church where all good Winonans come on Saturday morning to stand in the rain for blocks coming after Glaze, and my own personal favorite, the Vanilla Long John. So, you Mapleites, I won't hear of it. The establishment was called the Brugger Brothers Saloon. Saloons didn't really usually have names back in those days. They were named after whoever owned them, unless, of course, you had like the Bloody Bucket or something like that. The 2 Brugger brothers were married to the 2 Hahn sisters, who were Germans from Winona. Their father was Fred Hahn, it says here, the celebrated shoemaker of 3rd and Lafayette. Okay. Lewis and John were both members of the Order of Red Men, which was still right out there where the Eagles Club is now, and it was a despite the name which has gone out of favor over the years, it was a very prestigious organization to belong to. The Red Men, many Winona leaders were in the Red Men. George T. Smith, Walking Secret Rep, was the president of the Red Men. And the two Hans sisters, the Mrs. Burgers, were also members of the Degree of Pocahontas, which is the Red Men's Club for women. You can't get more established than that. And since I have written this story, I am informed that the Burger family is still here. There's still lots of them, and we've done some really impressive things in this town. I had no clue. The Burger brothers ran one of Winona's classier saloons. It was out on Broadway Street. It was away from the foot of Mankato, away from the levee. And then came Prohibition. That's when the Burger brothers entered the soft drink business. Yeah, you know where this is going. In one night, Winona's thriving bar scene became the soft drink industry. They sold their liquor license turned into a soft drink license. And you know how this would what the premise was. You would go into the establishment and buy a soft drink. And then booze, hooch, rock gut would enter the soft drink by some means or another that we can't say, and then, oh well, you know how that goes. The Winona cops turn a blind eye a lot of the time because there was so much of it going on and so many people to bust, and they were not getting supported by that. Winona's finest really didn't care much about Prohibition, and when the Burger Brothers soft drink parlor was burgled, the cops came and checked it out just like it was any other legitimate part of business, but that all changed on February 10th, 1923. On February 10th, 1923, Lewis and John Burger were arrested, carted off to jail. Lewis got 4 months in the county bookie, and John got fined $300. That was all in February. On May 19th, their older brother, Jacob Burger, was busted for running a still in his house on Sonia Street. It was a bad street for the Burger families. And in April 1923, the Burger brothers decided, and this speaks entirely to their credit, they got out of the soft drink business. I mean, they just weren't going to do this junk anymore. I think they started up a leather stripping door factory or something that never really took off here in Winona. They sold it to a fellow by the name of William J. Houghes. At the end of the 20th century, Winona had 2 iconic breweries. You all know about Peter Burb, and there was also the William Houghes brewing dynasty, which I never knew doodly squat about until last year, and I played William J. Houghes in the cemetery walk. Thank you, Jonelle. So I am a repository of all known facts about William J. Houghes. He died in 1907. And the dynasty went because his wife could run a lot of it, but they needed a man to be the front of the organization, and his son, William J. Houghes, was just not really up to the task. By 1930, he was running a used car lot in the Crescent or something like that. But he saw that this brewery, the Brewery Brothers place, would be his ticket to reclaiming the lost brewery glory. It was just another speakeasy. He failed in that business too. And William Houghes got 5 months for jail for possession of liquor. He went back into the soft drink business at 750 East Wabasha. What's this? I don't know. That one I don't know. I don't know anything. What's it? 750 East Water Shop. It doesn't really matter. What happens is the Brewer family feeds for history and goes on and propagates. But there is a catch to this story. In February of 1924, a gentleman by the name of William Blato opened up a bakery at 529 East Wabasha Street. Did they tell you that last week? Does anybody know what is located at 729 East? No, 529 East Wabasha. It's the high and low. Well, that's going on over there. Winona. It was the high and low. Blato's Bakery was established in 1924 inside the high and low. A year later, they moved to 451 East Broadway, site of the Brugger Brothers Saloon. And that, as Paul Harvey would say, is the rest of the story. Thank you very much.
You know, after Joe told the story of the Brugger brothers, I respect Earl Brugger more now than I ever did. And I had no idea about Earl back in the day, where he came from, what his roots are from. What a marvelous man. I mean, Earl Brugger was the real deal. I miss that guy.
Was it Brugger's Saloon?
It was the Brugger Brothers Saloon. No. Oh, geez, I know a little bit about the high and low because my cousin Bob Rutkowski used to run it from 1966 to whenever, and it was in the family for a while. It was at one time, it was a German tavern pretty much the entire way all the way through. It was owned by Julius Keekbush in like 1870, and I know that it was just really a pile of junk when Bob was on it, and we put it back together again.
So, what did you go to high and low?
Pardon?
Did you go to the bakery to high and low? That's the name.
No, I don't know where the name high and low came from.
Off-brow for a while, at the time, it was off-brow here. They had a horrible incident with the bull staff family.
I remember right. Things did turn out okay. Yeah, Earl Brugger was the real deal. So, I'll read a story and then we're going to get to leave. But I found myself walking through cemeteries a lot. Probably more than I should. I think Mr. Watkins' finest investment was his mausoleum up there, the one high above, because you can sit on those steps and you can see a beautiful view of the entire town. Really, really nice. But in doing the story on Charlie Brown, Charlie's not all alone up there in the Pauper Cemetery, so I wrote this story a ways back. It's a little bit graphic, but I think it will capture your attention. It's called Baby Boy Smith. I walked until I found myself at Woodlawn, wandering the farthest reaches. I stopped by a haunches of the stone out on the hill called Potter's Field. Baby Boy Smith, 1931. As soon as I saw it, the voices started talking. It was a quiet whisper. That's me, Baby Boy Smith. Never thought I'd get to say a word. Mom, you see, had a hard time forgetting my dying, and Dad reminded her every day that she was at fault. I never made it out of the room, you see. My life was not meant to be. The wind sighed through the trees when I sat down to listen. I keep thinking on this side, the baby voice went on. No stress, no stress. It's light in a different light. patterns of thinking, acting, cropping up time and again. They called me Blue Baby. Came out dead. Never saw the light. Dead. I was shaken like the leaves overhead, but the voice went on, soothing. Hanson, Hanson, don't be scared. We know who you are. What took so long? It's hard watching life from this side. Dad, my dad would rage. I could see it. He'd start pounding the table, slow, angry. You see it building. Blaming your father in rage. He couldn't let go. He couldn't let go by dying. Mama caught his anger. Food was overcooked, undercooked, never good. Dad was hurt less and less as the demons rose. House was never clean enough for him. Beer wasn't waiting. They used to have a beer every Friday. Dad started down that path of drinking alone. I screamed, and he didn't listen. Ryan ended up living hard and died at 42. 20 years of black eyes and bruises. I couldn't do anything, just watch. You see a lot of hurt on this side of living. Her life as she knew it ended when I came out dead. Dad beat her and showed none of his worst. For a while I thought I was responsible for their actions. It was their own sense of self and the views of things that got in the way of living for them. Everything changed after me. The body language, their talk. I think I would have liked baseball. You have to hear the graveyard during baseball season. People are just happier. Night ball in the old stadium is a nice, nice place. The stars can be so pretty when the lights in the city dim down. I just want to fly. Which brings us to Winona. Winona came here in 1856 from Hanover, Germany. She wasn't 5 foot tall and she was ugly as sin. She came here and got a job at the Huff Hotel. Working for Ezekiel and Francis Cockrell. And the Huff Hotel in 1856 was about the only place to stay in Winona. I mean, the roads were all dry and dirty, dusty potholes, the smell of the manure was all over. There were horse liveries on every corner. It was a dark place. This valley gets dark when there's no street lights. We think about the winter months. No electricity. Kerosene. It was a dark place. Things happen in dark places. The lady was right special. She was independent. She didn't take guff from nobody. She stood up to all the powers that be. She didn't care how expensive of a suit you were. And if there was one thing that Winona was darn proud of, and she didn't mess with the ladies on the 3rd floor of the Huff Hotel. So she ran the joint of the most beautiful, wonderful, lively woman. They all stayed away from her. Ezekiel Williams and Francis Cockrell left the ladies to lean around her. Now we didn't know everybody in town. We knew everybody knew everybody. In 1859 we had 1,300 steamboats landed on my lady. Everybody remember, steamboats they moved up the river during the winter months. I mean, that was pretty regular. We built the West. People came here, they headed west along the railroad line, Highway 14. That's where we came up. And we supplied the lumber. We raked the forests of Wisconsin. We made the lumber here. We sent it out. We're also in the hardware stores. On the way out. So they had a really smart business plan. And the Lords and the Norton and Mr. Lord put up the money to build this building. And we shouldn't forget about him. He's a pretty special dude. But his sad story is nothing compared to Matthew Norton. But back to William, because set me up for the next time, because the next time I do a talk, we're going to talk about the Norton family. So we just started throwing water in the basement. So I was her drive. Well, she was organized. And she knew what she was doing. She was smart. She couldn't speak English when she came here. This was a real immigrant. No English, no nothing. She spoke German or Prussian at the time. Anyway, she started there, and she started skimming money right away. 10% off every deal. And before you knew it, she was so organized. She was so organized, she was running the whole place. She was ordering linen, she was ordering food, she was ordering workers, she ran the show. Now, Conqueror, he was smart enough because he started drinking bourbon at 7:30 in the morning, and until he went to bed at 8 o'clock that night, a bourbon was never very far from his hand. Now, he claimed to be a Southern gentleman, but he was a short little guy with bald head, and he never served in the military, but they called him Colonel because he left the family that gave Colonel roots. You know how Southerners are. McWilliams was from up like Pennsylvania. McWilliams was a creature of habit. He did the same thing every day. So, and he had one really bad habit. He smoked a cigar from the time he woke up to the time he fell asleep. So we had two characters running, and one was me. We didn't know how they always ran the whole thing. McWilliams had a problem. McWilliams was a widower, thought every woman he came across was his for the taking. Well, Winona didn't like that. Winona wouldn't tolerate that. Winona wasn't one to do that. One time he blew his head in the corner. And he was trying to move in. And Winona, she's only this tall. You know how little people can be, how short little people can be. Well, she spit back. She was long. You didn't mess with Winona. McWilliams got a way to find out. And let's see. Well, we got close, and Rita says, boy, on the first, he's really close, and he's thinking, oh, she's thinking I'm going to pop him now. No, give her one throat, let's go in to kiss her. Well, she's fisting up her ball, she says, I got a little wanking. She grabbed him in his private parts. She squeezed. She twisted. And she squeezed some more. And the wind just howled. And the walls of the Huff Hotel came alive. And then, out of the corset, she pulled a small gold-plated Derringer, pointing it at McWilliams' forehead. I said, next time, let's go in there. Well, Cockrell was a pretty good guy, and you know, he didn't know who was Rena, because Rena was filling his pockets big time. It takes a lot to manage a hotel, a saloon, a bar, and two bosses who don't do nothing. I mean, they were part of a gas company, you know. They had 3 or 4 liveries around town. They weren't doing it all by themselves. Well, Rena and Taco got together, and he said, Francis, I don't know if I can work with this guy no more. And they had a pretty good relationship. Rena came up here on a ship called the Brazil, which was captained by Owen Smith. The founder went on in 1854 or 52. I don't know, they probably didn't know. 5, 1855.
You were there.
I got you back on track. So Cocker and Rena have this conversation at the bar, and he says, well, let's think about it, because Cocker was pretty good at thinking. He pause, reflect, and do stuff like that. But a couple days later, we got together, and he said, well, let's see what McWilliams does. Well, every morning, McWilliams, 5:30, 5 o'clock, I'd have to ask to see which one it was. But he did it about that time after the gas room downstairs. Always smoking a cigar, you know. Smoke that cigar, you can't smell nothing, right? So, that day of 1862, he's in there smoking a cigar, and he walks into the gas room and takes it, and he has a big bang of smoke. And kaboom! Kaboom! Mr. McWilliams. He's gone. And what piqued my interest the first time is the newspaper. Whoa.
I'm gonna try money. I'm gonna speak. I can do this now. What was interesting with the newspaper, she made every one of her employees walk through the line, see this mangled face, and she stood there looking over everybody, as if she were saying, "You mess with Lena." I wouldn't have messed with Lena. But shortly after that, she got
I think her computer
Okay. So, after doing this, she met with Colonel Cockrell. And Colonel Cockrell proceeded with a 10% of the Huff Hotel Company. And if you think about it, Colonel Cockrell went from owning 50% of the company to 90%. So it's actually a pretty shrewd move because they had the right of survivorship. And if that's your game, Francis Cockrell could do it really well. But that didn't stop Lena, even though she was only around 10% of the company. Didn't stop Lena. She continued to take her cut. Now you see, well, at the day of Lena's dying, we found in a piano stool and speeding luggage under false bottoms $26,000 of gold coins. Now this was 1889. This is a good chunk of money. I mean, a really good chunk of money. Now, her dying, they lived in a house on the corner of 5th and Johnson. Before the Opera House, it was a two-story white house. Nothing fancy. Colonel Cockrell lived with his sister and two nieces, and then Lena moved in. The nieces were worried. Lena was going to outlive Colonel Cockrell. And what would that do to the livelihood of those two nieces? So we don't know to this day how Lena Landry died. We know how she died, I'll get to that in a little bit. But we don't know why she died. Or we don't know why, but we don't know who killed her when she was killed. There were no police force in Winona that was going to go down to the Huff Hotel and bust some of those rituals. That wasn't going to happen. Lena was taking a warning Constitution right there at the outhouse, 4th and Johnson. And somehow her skirt caught a fire. And she ran out screaming to 4th Street. And in the middle of 4th and Johnson, Lena cried. She burned up. She went into yesterday. True story, folks. Only in Winona. Now, shortly after Lena's dying, Colonel Cockrell sold the Huff Hotel to the Winona Hotel Group, which was a groupie that was the most prominent one in the area. They built that Winona Hotel, if you've ever been in the front entrance, it was one classy place for the times. It was just a beautiful house. So they paid Cochran $13,000 for the Huff Hotel. And then they gave him 10% of the shares of this new Huff Hotel group. He took the money, bought the Ludwig Hotel downtown, and he took the money and then 10% of the shares of stock. He sold on 10 cents on the dollar. Now, I trusted Colonel Cockrell when I started doing the research on this story. But he turned a pretty good nickel on that street. And he managed his money really well. No matter what it took, it was a pound of money. Cockrell's initial fortune, came from his stills in Kentucky. So, after the Civil War, he would be putting labels on his barrels, Gettysburg Smoke, Shiloh Shot, all sorts of memories of the Civil War. And he got a winner. He lived in Winona, a northern state during the time of the Civil War. It was a remarkable time. It was lively time, and man, sometimes it's worst. But those are the myths of so much of this town. When you look at this beautiful library and woodworking and things like that, it tells you something about the people who built this. It really tells you something. It is a cool library. And when you look up there, you notice they did painting. And Winona's got to take care of this. It's just such a powerful place. This library is so cool. Thank you. Any question?
Joe's got another story, but we're right here. Anybody got any questions for me? Yeah. I don't think, but Lena was smart. She told me she gave away a lot of them. She helped some of the women on second when they got stuff. I'm sure Lena Weinberg probably had a few more killed in the river too. She wasn't quite, you know? Think about coming to this town in the 1850s and say, you know, a single woman. Oh my. I wish she was crushing that shit. She was tough, yeah. Well, you know, Winona lawyers are really good too. And all the banks for wealthy business in town, average is the other bank, Lansing is the other bank. Beautiful. Henry had a Polish bakery across the street from Nashville. Beautiful bank, and I know the liberals in. I don't know which which is a pretty important position. They have seen the Polish rise to that level, and it is really the
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
know it's great. So it-
I guess so. Life fell hard on Frances Nagowski. She was born in 1871 in what used to be called Poland and had just become the German Empire. There is no record of what Frances herself thought about this great fact. When she was 1 year old, her father died. When she was 12 years old, her mother died. This was 1883. She had one brother in the seminary, and the other brother had, of all places, emigrated to Winona, Minnesota. This did young 13-year-old, 12-year-old Frances Nagowski no good. She had nobody. She was an orphan. Her family had just disintegrated on her. One option, there were two options for Polish young women these days. Option number one was going into religious life. Frances would have made a good nun. She was diligent, she was hardworking, and she was a devout Roman Catholic. But she wasn't going to be told what to do. She was going to be the one doing the telling. And she had decided that she was going to get married to a hard-working, handsome Catholic man who would give her lots of children. She would live in a city, not the country, and that city would be Winona, Minnesota. For 2 years, Frances Nagowski worked as a domestic, cleaning and laundering and cleaning and laundering and all of these other things until the happy day came in January 1887, where she sailed on the good ship Vassar from Bremen to Baltimore. She took the train from Baltimore to Winona. She did this all by herself. I know this because I've checked the passenger manifests, and she was the only Polish person on the boat. When she got to Winona, she hooked up with her brother Valentine. Now, Frances was a Kashubian Pole. She grew up speaking Kashubian in the house. She spoke Polish at church, and they had to speak German because the Germans ran the place. It was a language of rule, as only the Prussians could rule, believe me. Valentine, her brother, came to Winona and became a total German. He started speaking German. He married a German woman and changed his last name to Negler. Frances did not appreciate this at all. Valentine had some advice, though. Looking for a job? Go to the Huff Hotel. The head housekeeper, I've heard that the head housekeeper at the Huff Hotel is a German lady. Maybe she'll hire you because you speak such good German. It made Frances's stomach turn, but a job is a job. She went down to the Huff House, and she met a woman by the name of Lena Weinberg. Lena took a liking to Frances. She looked like a serious, hardworking young lady who could actually speak German very fluently. Colonel Cockrell hated the sound of the German language. And Lena loved to speak German in front of Colonel Cockrell for just that reason. Frances's skill in speaking German got her the job. Frances got down to the laundry. That was her first job. Can you imagine how much laundry it takes to run the Huff Hotel? Every sheet washed and dried and ironed in every single night. Frances, 16 years old, took the laundry over. In 3 weeks, it was running like a top. She wasn't ordering anybody. When Frances was around, things got done. Lena liked this because Lena's job in the organization, as Merle pointed out, was to let Colonel Cockrell be Colonel Cockrell. You know, sitting there getting hammered on bourbon, pretending that he didn't spend the entire Civil War in Winona. Lena did this, ran the place, so he didn't have, well, Lena had a lot of other side interests, you understand. And Frances made it possible for Lena to be Lena. Oh, they had great times through 1887 and 1888. These were the best times of Frances's life. She had come over to this land of opportunity. She had gotten a good job. She had met a very handsome, tall, handsome Polish boy by the name of Charlie Bambenek. And she had decided she was going to be Mrs. Charlie Bambenek. He didn't know it yet, but it didn't really matter what he thought. She got to meet his cousin Joe Devon. She got to meet Joe Devon's girlfriend, Katie Bronk, and become very close friends with Katie Bronk. And they also met the mysterious John R. Beam. So life was going good, and from time to time, she'd be walking through the lobby of the Huff House Hotel, and all of a sudden Lena would start in German at her, and oh boy, Frances would go, well, Frances Cockrell just turned beet red. Those were the days. But again, as Merle pointed out, this was a time of change. The Huff House, the iconic hotel from 1856, is going down. Dragged off, quartered like a wisdom tooth, and dragged off to different parts of Winona. While the brand new courthouse, the Mayberry Courthouse, the symbol of Winona, the Gate City triumphant, is going up. This can't help but prey on somebody's head. The fix was in. Lena Weinberg knew what was coming. The writing was on the wall, and one day she called Frances Nagowski into her little office. For 40 years, Lena had kept that office neat as a nothing out of place, a real German. Now it was just covered with papers, newspapers, letters. She wasn't really Lena anymore. And Lena said to her, Frances, today is your last day of work at the Huff House. As of tomorrow, you will be working for Mr. Hayes at the Tremont Hotel. You will have your own room, and you will be making more money than I've been paying you. If this is not satisfactory, I will find you another job immediately. It won't be hard. She said, when I came here, I was like you, an orphan woman who didn't speak the language. And I thought that I could make it in a man's world. But I'm here to tell you, I'm proud of what I've accomplished. But the best thing you can do for yourself is marry that big, handsome Polish boy of yours, because it's a man's world. And I thought I could beat it, but I couldn't. And then she did something really astonishing. She got up from behind her desk and advanced towards Frances. Keep in mind that neither Lena Weinberg nor Frances Nagowski was a huggy type person. They were both short and intense. The thing you notice most if you look at Frances Nagowski's pictures is her dark, burning eyes, standing next to this dreamy, tall Polish boy. You can see her wearing the pants right there on her wedding day. She came up to Frances and tried to hug Frances, and Frances tried to hug her. It was more moving that way. They weren't huggers, but there was some bond there that they couldn't express. And then Lena said, and finally, one more thing. I have deposited $50 in your name at the Winona Savings Bank. In your name. It's your money. I came here with some money and I made it grow. I want you to make this money grow. I place it in the Winona Savings Bank under the name of Mrs. Charles Bambenek. I think you'd better go marry that guy pretty quick. Thank you very much.